The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Welcome to my radio and TV show, Debbie Changes Lives. I'm Debbie, your certified holistic health coach. I vitalize people's lives by helping them identify the root causes of their health and mindset issues and create a custom natural holistic strategy to address them in the areas of mind, body, and soul. As a health coach, I'm not allowed to say that I heal, treat, cure, prevent, or diagnose any diseases. I can certainly help reduce symptoms, and you will feel better. And be more productive, enjoy life a lot more. Now, not many people have released 70 pounds, had a health and mindset transformation, and kept fit and trim for over a decade. I have, and I have staying power. Are my slides coming up? And it's been over 12 years. I even became a half marathon runner at the age of 51 when I never ran from childhood to adulthood due to foot pain. And I have done 8 half marathons so far. Now, as a certified holistic health coach, I do revitalize people's lives in many different areas of health and mindset. I help you optimize your health, release weight efficiently, and enhance your mindset. With my coaching, I help my clients recognize that their thoughts, feelings, and emotions drive their actions and results, sometimes good, sometimes bad. That's why it's crucial to have a positive mindset in life. It's also imperative to manage those low vibrational emotions such as fear, frustration, and doubt, because all that's going to do is slow you down and get you stuck physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Like a hot air balloon that has balances, I help my clients release those emotional balances and baggage so they can uplift to a better, happier, healthier life. And in turn, they are releasing their stress and they're getting healthier and reshaping their core beliefs. You'll see and feel the differences in my coaching programs. Ask me about them. Set up a complimentary consultation at Debbie Changes Lives, DebiChangesLives, as in Victory, es.com/Linktree, LINKTREE. And when you do that, I will guide you to that better, happier, healthier life with custom natural solutions for you in the areas of mind, body, and soul. Today, I am thrilled to have back Dr. Joanne Conaway, a naturopathic physician. She is an international speaker and author. She wrote this book, Why is America So Sick? Linking digestive health to immunity and hormone issues. Dr. Joanne Conaway's background includes a bachelor's of science degree in nursing in 1976. She is a nurse involved in ER, trauma, operating room, critical care, infection control, cardio care, and nursing education and management. She has spent several years specializing as a nutritional support nurse. There, she cared for people who could not eat by mouth and were getting their nutrition via a feeding tube. This experience sparked her passion for helping people understand the importance of a healthy diet and a healthy digestive system. Dr. Conaway is a retired lieutenant colonel and spent 20 years in the U.S. Air Force and Reserves, many of those years as an aeromedical evacuation nurse, being uncomfortable caring for people following the mainstream medical model. After learning so much about the natural approach, Dr. Joanne Conaway retired from nursing early and went back to school and became a naturopathic physician. Today, we'll be discussing how anxiety and autoimmune relate to the gut and the gut-brain axis. So let's welcome Dr. Joanne Conaway, a naturopathic physician, speaker, and author. Dr. Conaway, welcome back to my show.
Well, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be back again with you, Debbie. This is so much fun.
Yes, it is. And I always learn something new, and I know my audience will too. So let's start off. How does dysregulation of the gut microbiome influence neuroimmune signaling along the gut-brain axis, and what implications does this have for the development and persistence of anxiety disorders?
Well, it's really interesting because when I wrote that book several years ago, there was discussion about the gut-brain axis, but it wasn't nearly as involved as it is today. We have learned so much, we understand so much more. So before we get started, let's talk just a little bit about the difference between dysbiosis and dysregulation. When we talk about dysbiosis, very plain and simply, dysbiosis is the disruption of the balance of bacteria in the gut. We're talking about the gut microbiome. We have several microbiomes in the body, but today we're talking about the gut microbiome. And so dysbiosis is literally an imbalance. You've got too much of the bad bacteria, too much of unhealthy yeast. You have not enough of the good bacteria. So that's what creates dysbiosis. Now, dysregulation is a little bit different in as much as dysregulation can actually refer to any disruption in a biological or biochemical process within the body. Dysregulation does not necessarily have to involve the bad bacteria. It can, but does not always have to involve the bad bacteria. So when we talk about dysregulation, as it refers to what's going on with the gut-brain axis, what we're talking about is dysbiosis allowing for a breakdown of the integrity of the intestinal wall. We refer to that as leaky gut, okay? And when people develop a leaky gut, what will happen is things that are not appropriate will leave the digestive system and get picked up into the circulation. Picked up into the circulation. Now, I think one of the important things to remember is our bacteria actually break down our foods. When our bacteria break down our foods, if it's the healthy bacteria breaking down our foods, those healthy molecules leave the gut, get picked up into the circulation, and go out into the body and do the jobs that are necessary at the cellular level. However, bad bacteria also break down our foods. So when you have a gut that's disrupted, when you have dysbiosis, you have too much of the bad bacteria. The bad bacteria is also going to break down your food. However, what now leaves the gut, instead of being healthy molecules, are unhealthy molecules, things that are actually toxins and poisons and things that disrupt the normal bodily processes. So if you have a situation where you have a dysbiosis, and now what's leaving the gut is instead unhealthy molecules, those unhealthy molecules find their way to the brain. And when that happens, what then will happen is an inflammatory response or an inflammatory reaction. When we talk about inflammation, no matter where it is in the body, is an immune response. For example, if you bump your shin, okay, and I use that example because most of us have had the unfortunate experience of bumping our shin, okay? So when you bump your shin, what happens? Well, you have, first of all, pain, okay? But then you have swelling, sometimes warm to touch, sometimes redness in the area. This is the normal inflammatory response. Now take that normal inflammatory response and think about it at the cellular level, and think about it being an out of control inflammatory response. In the human body, that inflammatory response is, first of all, appropriate. Second of all, it's necessary. It's what helps to promote healing and get that bumped shin to actually begin to heal. But when you are creating inflammation at the cellular level, especially in the brain, it doesn't work the same way. That inflammation is being caused by inappropriate toxins or inappropriate molecules, inappropriate messengers getting to the brain. And when that happens, they actually impact the glial cells. And those cells are the actual immune cells of the brain.
Okay.
And so when they are impacted, what then happens is instead of having a good, healthy, functioning brain, instead what happens is you kind of muddy up the works, if you will. And so now messages leaving the brain are not appropriate, healthy messages. And this is one of this microglial inflammation that occurs as a result of those toxins getting to the brain is a hallmark of anxiety and depression. When we actually see microglial inflammation, it's one of the things that actually determines whether or not a person is going to have anxiety or depression. Now, the other thing that comes into play is our HPA axis, our hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. When you have an unhealthy gut, that HPA axis, which is supposed to help to regulate us, kind of keep us on an even keel, if you will, it gets hyperactive. And when that happens, it also can contribute to issues that are associated with anxiety and depression. So, bad gut or unhealthy gut leading to all of these toxins leaving the gut, going out into the circulation, ending up in the brain, and causing issues and problems because of the inflammation that gets caused in the brain.
Wow, that's a lot. So
It is a lot. It is a lot.
it's a lot. So can they go in like in a circulatory pattern when all that's happening? Because that's what anxiety can do to people sometimes.
Pretty much, absolutely. And until you correct the baseline problem, which is the dysbiosis, you're going to have situations like anxiety and depression. One of the things that we know, for example, people who have irritable bowel syndrome or inflammatory bowel disease, they also often will have anxiety and depression. And the reason is they've already got the unhealthy gut, and that just now contributes to the problems with the unhealthy brain, which in turn will send signals to the gut to increase the hyperpermeability of the gut, which will then send more cytokines or more inflammatory messengers, if you will, to the brain, and it becomes this vicious cycle. So what you need to do is you need to correct the dysbiosis.
Okay. So even stress can probably do this for people as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Stress plays a critical role. And it's again because, interestingly enough, dysbiosis can increase stress. Stress can increase dysbiosis. And again, it's that bidirectional pathway via the vagus nerve. When we talk about the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body. Starts at the base of the brain, goes down and innervates everything, the heart, the lung, the liver, the spleen, everything in the thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity. And that's why so many people who have gut issues actually have vagus nerve issues. Okay, we know that there's a strong link there, but it is a bidirectional pathway. Those healthy things leaving the gut go to the brain by way of the vagus nerve. If they're healthy molecules, now the biochemical messages that come from the brain to the rest of the body or back to the gut are all healthy, appropriate messages. But if what's leaving the gut is not healthy, goes to the brain, causes this inflammation, then now what's going to happen is it's going to trigger those responses like anxiety and depression. And now, because of the fact that it's not good, healthy molecules, what leaves the vagus nerve and comes down the other side, if you will, is toxins and poisons once again. And so those biochemical messages that are supposed to keep the gut healthy are not keeping the gut healthy. They're disrupting the gut even more.
So there must be neurotransmission between everything going on. Would the bacteria be doing all this, communicating all this stuff? Or is it just
bacteria is responsible for, first of all, allowing either the good stuff to leave or the bad stuff to leave. If you've got an overabundance of unhealthy bacteria for whatever reason, and we know so many things can contribute to that. When we talk about, our food supply can disrupt our bacterial balance. Antibiotics certainly can disrupt the bacterial balance. Steroid medications disrupt the bacterial balance. Interestingly enough, many over-the-counter medications that people just take because they think this is what I need, this isn't going to bother me, it's over-the-counter. Many of those over-the-counter medications disrupt the microbiome of the gut. A really good example is non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, things like ibuprofen, Motrin, Aleve, Naproxen. Those things are very detrimental to the health and balance of the gut microbiome. And so there are so many things that we do that actually disrupt the balance. And now we put ourselves into a situation where we're not healthy. We're not healthy from various perspectives. Today's show is talking about the brain, but we know if you have an unhealthy gut, that's going to lead to unhealthy everything in the body, okay? There's so many studies that are being done with respect to an unhealthy gut microbiome and the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the endocrine system, the reproductive system, the integumentary system, which is your skin. We know, for example, that if you have an unhealthy gut, you can have unhealthy skin. You can have things like psoriasis and eczema and issues that indicate that there's definitely something wrong with your gut. Now, this is sometimes very confusing to people. What does my gut have to do with my skin? Everything in the world, okay? Your gut has to do with every other system in the body. If your gut's not healthy, you're not healthy.
Yeah, and obviously it becomes a symptom that something's going on with your gut. There's something's going through that leaky, the barrier and becoming a leaky gut. Now, with anxiety and autoimmune, does anxiety, I guess people with autoimmune diseases can have anxiety as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And so when it comes to the activation of, autoimmunity, are the immune signaling contributing to all this, just the way you describe with the people with autoimmune?
It certainly can. What happens with autoimmune is all of those healthy molecules, like I said, that are normally going out and doing the jobs at the cellular level. What if they're not healthy molecules? What if it's the unhealthy bacteria that is sending out unhealthy molecules? So now what happens is these little messengers go out into the body, and the body says, wait a minute. And especially true is the fact that when you develop a leaky gut, instead of just having small healthy molecules leave, oftentimes what will happen is you'll have larger than normal protein molecules leaving. Cytokines actually leave the gut because those tight junctions in the gut wall are no longer tight. And so now your leaky gut allows for a leaking of these things, like proteins, for example, into the circulation. And when that happens, the body says, well, no, wait a minute. This is not self. This is non-self. This is something I need to attack. This is something I need to take care of. And so with autoimmune conditions, what happens is the body's immune system goes into hyperdrive, trying to combat whatever this unrecognized non-self molecule is. Now, interestingly enough, when we talk about bad things leaving the gut, they can take up residence in various different places in the body. For example, when we talk about Hashimoto's thyroiditis, that's an autoimmune condition of the thyroid gland. And what has happened is because of all of this activity that is not normal, the body starts to react and starts to attack itself and starts to attack thyroid cells in that situation. Rheumatoid arthritis has also been thrown into the category of autoimmune, and we have several theories about what causes rheumatoid arthritis, but one of the theories is, again, these unhealthy molecules taking up residence in the joint. So all of these are considered autoimmune conditions, and what they actually indicate is that what's leaving the gut is unhealthy and stimulating this reaction whereby the body says, this is non-self. I need to mount an attack and take care of it.
That makes sense because it doesn't know.
Yeah.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. And then when someone has anxiety about their autoimmune condition, it just makes things worse.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
So many of these things trigger each other, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now, how, when it comes to psychological stress and gut physiology and autoimmune activity, and maybe we already covered this, particularly in the relation to anxiety and the HP axis dysregulation. Have you covered all that topic? And you covered a lot of it.
Pretty much. We know that the HPA axis is actually a driver. It's also a target of any stress-related inflammatory processes. So if you have stress, you mentioned stress a few minutes ago, if you have stress and a stress type reaction, and it is actually manifest because of this unhealthy gut, then the HPA axis can be both the target and the driver. And so, excuse me, given that, we get back to that vicious cycle.
Yeah, and this vicious cycle needs to be broken somehow. So, from a clinical and therapeutic, perspective, how promising is a gut-targeted intervention, such as
Well, yeah, there's a lot of research being done with respect to that right now. And what we're finding is probiotics are actually very powerful and very beneficial, because if you're taking a good, healthy probiotic product, you're actually increasing the good stuff.
Yes.
And basically what happens when you think about it, you've got good bacteria, bad bacteria, or less than desirable bacteria. You've got microorganisms that are unhealthy in your gut. You also have yeast. You also have parasites. There are a lot of different things that actually reside in the gut of a human being. But if you have an overgrowth of something that is unhealthy, like that unhealthy bacteria, then what we find is in those situations, we struggle with trying to combat all of these issues and all of these problems. So if we can either A, overcome the unhealthy bacteria by increasing enormously the amount of probiotic, we can in fact affect a change. And there's a lot of research being done right now with the impact of good, healthy probiotics. And, for so many years, we talked about different strains of probiotics. The product that I use is a product that has 14 different strains of probiotic. And I think it's important to understand that using a probiotic product that only has 2 or 3 strains and using it consistently day in and day out, what you will create is a situation that is referred to as mono-inoculation, meaning you will have an increase in those 2 or 3 good, healthy bacterial strains, but none of the others. And so when we start talking about using a good probiotic product, we want to think about things, not only the probiotic itself, but get a good, healthy probiotic that has several different strains. As I said, the one I use has 14 different strains, but also think about the other things that are going to actually be diverse in as much as provide the gut with different kinds of healthy bacteria. So things like sauerkraut and fermented vegetables and kimchi and things like that. That's going to increase the diversity of the bacteria in the gut. And that's going to go a long way toward helping to rebalance the gut, if you will. So go ahead.
So what I found is, when I had a digestive issue, I actually, did that one product that you're talking about, as well as I added more during the day, different times of the day, and it really helped me quite a bit.
Right.
And so, because it was a variety of different type of probiotics. Now you also mentioned sauerkraut. I have incorporated that in my diet. That's an acquired taste for a lot of people. Is there any other fermented foods that you could recommend?
Well, you can ferment all kinds of vegetables, and many people just do that. They'll ferment carrots and green beans and things like that. And it's just the fermentation process that helps to build the bacteria and helps to, again, bring in a diverse series of bacteria rather than just those simple strains. Now, the other thing that I think is important for people to realize, that's one approach. Lots of probiotics, okay? Probiotics, lots of them will help to beat out all the bad stuff, if you will. The other thing is, you know, we also, as you know, have a good product that will help to eliminate the bad bacteria.
Yes.
Eliminating the bad bacteria and taking an abundance of the good bacteria will help change things around very, very quickly. But I think the other thing that's important for people to understand is when you have disruption in the gut microbiome, we're talking about ill health in the gut, ill health of the cells in the gut, ill health of the villi in the small intestine. And so that's when things like bone broth or collagen, that's when things like those products are actually very beneficial because they're going to help with the connective tissue. They're going to help to regenerate those cells in that connective tissue. And if you put something like a good healthy bone broth or a good healthy collagen in conjunction with a good probiotic and perhaps a product that's going to get rid of the bad bacteria, you can see a change very, very quickly in most people. Now, I will also say that it kind of depends on how long the person has had the disruption. Sometimes it takes longer for some people than in other people. I have a program that I use that I know you're familiar with. It's a 20-day program. And what I normally recommend is people do the 20-day program, take a couple weeks off, and then repeat the 20-day program. A lot of people will say, oh my gosh, that's several billion colonies of bacteria. I say, that's absolutely right. And you need all of them. And a big part of it is the fact that each and every day, because of our environment, because of our food supply, what's in our water, our electromagnetic fields, medicines we take, all of those things decrease the good, healthy bacteria. So if you're going to stay healthy, you need to continually increase the good, healthy bacteria.
Yeah. Yes, and bone broth is a great way of doing it too. And I guess it could be beef bone broth, it could be turkey.
Beef, chicken, turkey. Yep, just as long as it's organic and good quality. You know, you don't want bone broth.
What about venison? And I don't know if you can get that. I know we
You can make your own.
Milk and venison, but I don't know if you can get the bones.
Well, if you get your own deer, you can.
I'm not in the area where I can get that.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more likely to happen where I am than where you are. But
yeah, well, there's a nice store called Wild Fork.
Yeah.
That you can
get. Yeah, I don't know. You might be able to get the bones.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see. I don't know if they, sell that bone broth, but maybe it's already pre-made. I don't know.
I don't know either. I've never looked into it. I use beef bone broth and chicken bone broth. Those are the two primary ones that I use. So.
Okay. And are there any other microbiota, directed therapies that people can do?
Well, there are some that are experimental. There are some that are being used now with significant success. One of them is fecal transplant, where they'll take, I know it doesn't sound very appealing, but it has proven to be very helpful. Okay. But one of the stories that I was reading, two stories, in fact, I was reading, the fecal transplant was done because the person was having other issues. And they also had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And interestingly enough, doing the fecal transplant for the other issue cleared up their Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, wow.
Now think about that for just a minute. What are we talking about when we talk about Alzheimer's disease? Well, yeah, we're talking about the brain. And fascinatingly enough, conventional medicine always says, well, it's the plaques in the brain. Well, interestingly enough, there's research out there that says perhaps those plaques that are forming as a protective mechanism in the brain. that flips the whole theory of the plaques and tangles are what causes Alzheimer's disease, turns it right upside down. Okay.
Wow.
Because what if these plaques and tangles are actually forming as a defense mechanism and actually helping the brain to overcome bad things that are in the brain? But again, let's get right back to the gut. And if we get right back to the gut, if we keep the gut healthy, keep the gut balanced, then what leaves the gut is not going to be problematic for the brain.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So it'd be the exact same thing with autoimmunity and anxiety.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And most of us that practice in the alternative world, and I laugh every time I say that, because what we do is what's been done for generations. But those of us who work in the alternative world, we have seen significant improvements in people's health when they do focus on their gut. Many of us also believe, for example, that all autoimmune conditions begin in the gut. And I think it only stands to reason. If you have an unhealthy gut, and if what's leaving your gut through those weak junctions actually go out, those things go out, they take up residence someplace else in the body. That's how an autoimmune condition starts. So I think it only stands to reason that autoimmunity begins in the gut. Because if your gut was healthy and you had tight junctions, things wouldn't be leaving the gut. A lot of people, we think about the gut and we think about the fact that you eat a meal and, somewhere along the way, the stomach does what it's supposed to do. And whatever you've eaten makes you either healthy or unhealthy. Okay. What a lot of people don't stop and think about is that gut, that tube from the mouth to the anus, is a tube that is supposed to be a tube that does not necessarily interfere or intersect with other parts of the body. And it won't, except to let out good, healthy molecules if it's healthy. But if it's not healthy, then what comes into the body can escape to different parts of the body and cause significant problems.
Yeah, I get that too. And when you're correcting, I don't know if that's the right word, but when you're changing your microbiota or the bacteria in your gut, getting rid of the old, replacing it, and things like that, it could be almost like gassy and kind of feeling strange. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. And what I explain to people is, don't be concerned if that happens, because literally there's a war going on. You have a gut that's full of unhealthy stuff, and now you're dumping in lots of healthy stuff. That healthy stuff is going to help to force out the unhealthy stuff. So in that battle, people can sometimes have bloating and cramps and even have diarrhea. Diarrhea, a lot of people say, oh, I have diarrhea, I must be allergic to something. No, diarrhea is oftentimes a good thing. It is an indication that your body is detoxing and getting rid of something that shouldn't be there. So diarrhea is not always a bad thing. We've thought and taught for years that if you have diarrhea, there's got to be something going on. Well, oftentimes if you have diarrhea, and especially if you're in a situation where you're trying to rebalance the gut, if you have diarrhea, that is not a bad thing. That is, in fact, a very good thing, because your body's detoxing and getting rid of the bad stuff. Getting rid of the bad stuff will also put you in a situation where you may have very foul-smelling gas. Again, it's the bad stuff leaving. Once the bad stuff gets cleared out, and it usually, depending upon how sick a person's gut is, it can sometimes take a week before that rumbling and that gas and all that flatulence actually goes away. But if people will just recognize and understand that this is the process and it's not a bad thing, and stick with it, they'll find out that they're much happier and healthier on the other end. But so oftentimes, people say, oh, I had to stop doing that because it just gave me so much gas, or I had to stop doing that, I got so bloated and gassy and uncomfortable. That says to me, as a gut person, what that says to me is you had a really unhealthy gut to start with, and that's why you had the issues and the problems that you had. But it should never be concerning. And this is what I try to explain to people when I work with them and I put them on the program. Do not get upset and freak out if you start to have these GI symptoms. It just says you've got bad stuff, you have an unhealthy gut, you're putting in good stuff, and you're repairing your gut, and this is just the symptom that goes along with it.
And I think burping is a part of that as well.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah,
And
those
what-
pressures build up in the small intestine and build up, enough so that the pressures build up in the stomach, and now you have a belching situation.
Oh, I see. And acid can also be a contributor too, can't it? I mean, acid coming up sometimes, or
Well, sometimes acid will come up as a result of that, but excuse me, oftentimes that's happening not so much because you're rebalancing the gut, but because people have an issue with a lower esophageal sphincter that isn't tightening and isn't functioning like it should.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, we touched on it a minute ago, but oftentimes people will come to me with issues like athlete's foot or jock itch or some type of a yeast situation. Sometimes women who have pendulous breasts develop yeast under their breast. Sometimes if you have a pendulous abdomen, a lap abdomen, they develop yeast under the abdomen. And what doctors will do is they'll prescribe a topical antifungal. Well, a topical antifungal may help with the symptoms temporarily, but you're not addressing the issue. The issue is an overgrowth of yeast in the gut that has traveled out of the gut and into the circulation. And that's what's causing your athlete's foot. That's what's causing your jock itch. And, people will say, how can my gut be associated with my athlete's foot? Well, it's because your gut wall isn't healthy, and what's leaving your gut is unhealthy yeast. There are 3 cases, people that I've worked with in the last several years, who actually had candida. Now, candida is the most common yeast that causes systemic yeast infections, okay? Interestingly enough, we all have candida as a part of us. We have candida in our mouths. We have candida in our guts. It is a part of us. It doesn't get out of control. It doesn't cause problems until or unless you don't have enough good, healthy gut bacteria. You start to have a breakdown of the intestinal wall and overgrowth of the candida. So I have personally been involved with 3 people who actually ended up with candida on the brain. Now, their symptoms were pretty significant. They had bad headaches, blurred vision, ringing in the ears, chronic restlessness. All 3 of them were disabled. They could not hold down a job. They could not function because they couldn't get a good night's sleep. And when we did the gut protocol and did a good candida removal, if you will, rebalance the gut, don't allow the candida, all 3 of them are back to work doing well, leading normally healthy lives. But again, I think it just speaks to the issue of what's leaving the gut can go out and take up residence anywhere in the body.
That's wonderful. Well, we really need a healthy gut for a healthy brain and everything else. So what is your offer today for my audience?
Well, I am happy to, first of all, suggest that you read my book. Now, as I said, back then we didn't know as much about the brain as we do now. And my next book is going to be talking more about the gut-brain axis and the gut-brain conditions, the way we know and understand what's going on in the brain. But that book is very good and especially if you're someone who doesn't have that basic understanding of just how critically important gut is, and that takes nothing away from anyone. Most physicians don't have that basic understanding of just how important the gut is, okay? But it's a book that many people have gotten significant benefit from. And then I offer also a 30-minute complimentary consultation free to you, but I'm perfectly happy to work with anyone who contacts me, has issues, and wants to know what to do. I will help you understand the approach to take. I will help you understand what it is to do. And then I'll send you back to Debi and she can get you all hooked up. So to reach out to me, my email address is, or not my email address, but my website is www.drjconaway.com. So drjconaway.com. So reach out to me and I'm happy to set up a consultation with you. You can also purchase my book by going out to www.drjconaway.com.
Fantastic. Well, that's a wonderful offer. I really love that book. I've learned so much about it. Our food pyramid has gotten inverted, but other than that, it's a great book. And she's right. She's coming out with another book. So I will have you back again, Dr. Joanne. And but please stick around for closing remarks, and I'll get through everything else, and we'll do the closing remarks.
Sounds good.
Okay, so remember, I do revitalize people's lives and their health in many different areas. I start with the gut and mindset, but I also help people with hormone issues, as well as blood sugar, brain and heart, bone and joint, and immunity. I help people with anxiousness up to athletes, because I am guiding you to clean, toxin-free foods and high-quality, essential nutrient products that reduce symptoms. You'll feel better, possibly lose weight. Actually, I lost an additional 20 pounds. I got up to 70 total. And it's going to uplift your mood, which really happened for me. And with my mindset coaching, I help you release emotions, stress, entanglements from the past. And I'm guiding you as you are reshaping your core beliefs, and your mindset will be enhanced. With my health optimization and weight release, your body's more efficient. That is the mind-body solution that makes your heart and soul sing. So you ask me about my programs by going to my consultation at, which is, you can go to the next slide, doesn't matter, which is at Debi Changes Lives, DEBICHANGESLIV as in victory ES.com/Linktree, LINKTREE. And it begins with a couple of, health evaluations. And plus you get to know me and I get to know you. So the health evaluation is actually complimentary, where you rate your symptoms the last 30 days in 4 categories of health. Some questions overlap into multiple categories. Answer them all, and it'll get a baseline score. I'll review it with you. And we will, and when you move forward with my services, I'll create that custom natural strategy unique to you in the areas of mind, body, and soul. And I also have 2 different body Zyto scans that we monitor on a monthly basis. Now, the Zyto scans, I prefer to do the Vizira link, because I can send it remotely and internationally. And I actually sent it to Australia and South Africa. Vizira Link is a transdermal optical image app that I send a link to your phone. You scan your face for 30 seconds. It's only looking at blood flow for components of energetic, functional, emotional, and different body systems and lifestyles. That emotional component is such a hidden gem. It creates a wellness report, not a diagnosis, of biomarkers, how to arrange, and products and services back into range. And I review it with you, and it's quite intensive. That's why it costs $75, but I give you a $25 credit that you can use on a program or product. Just remember that Vizira Link is a transdermal optical imaging app, also stands for TOI, and you can look it up at accuracy on PubMed.gov. That's PUBMED.gov to find out how accurate it is. And people are really amazed what their body tells them through the scanning. You'll be too. Curious? Either you can get the scan done or ask me questions on my consultation. Also on the site are my programs. Take Your Body Back is a 12-week weight release mindset coaching program where you can utilize a new version of you to drive you to success. All coaching is done on Zoom, and the first one's always private to you, because I am a certified HIPAA health practitioner, so any health evaluation is private to you. I go over that. I give you a choice between 3 programs, and one of them is a natural approach for the GLP-1 with no injections. And I give you a choice of those programs and the instructions on one. I also give you instructions how to create a new version of you that will drive you with emotion and passion to achieve your health and weight transformation journey goals throughout your journey. The rest of the coaching is the same, whether it's in group or private. We'll be celebrating your wins. I'll be guiding you over your gaps, and I'm going to show you how to use those boards. You will become a new you. You can ask me more questions on my consultation, And because my programs have changed. Now, if you're doing it yourselfer, why fast the intermittent fasting program that gets your cells and body humming and turn boosts your metabolism with rich, dense nutrition and high quality essential nutrients. It also has exercises and recipes. Here you can ask me questions. If you feel like you need some coaching, there's a 2 or 4 week program to get you started. And you can always have more coaching if you want. You have to pay additional. You can use a smaller program for mindset enhancement as well as health optimization. But truly, those are longer term journeys, but I can create a custom program for you as well. And I also have Debi's coaching. I also have a couple new offers in the next slide, which one is the Women's Complete Hope System called Hope. And I actually love this product because I do have some digestive issues from time to time, and that first product is a great probiotic. There's also something for life balance that helps with hormone systems, and it's something for aging gracefully. The GLB program I was talking about, that's all natural. It's actually a liquid shot you drink. It's called Elevate for 10 days. Next one is 20 days that you drink the Activate, and all 30 days you drink the Regulate, which is actually going to push all those toxins out of your system, which is so much better than the medical approach. Ask me questions at my link tree. And don't forget, I do have the coaching chats as well. It's a 30-minute private coaching session in a group setting. It's not recorded. It's based on these topics. Certain people pick one of these topics. And if you're a part of my radio audience, contact me for the topics. It's on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Again, this is at Debi Changes Lives, which is DebiChangesLive as in Victory ES.com/chats, and you learn what my coaching is all about. Now, learn more about alternative health. Services, products, programs, offers, articles, blogs, upcoming shows, events, and promos by subscribing to my newsletter, which is at DebiChangesLives.com. This time /radio TV show, all in lowercase. And I give you a gift, a 30-day health and mindset daily action journal, where you can record your gratitudes, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, as well as the food, water, supplements, and exercise you do on a daily basis. You can even track your measurements. You want to review it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to see your wins and celebrate them, find your gaps to work on. And if you need bridging that gap, you contact me for coaching. This is actually a great tool for mind and body awareness. So check it out. And I am certain that, and you can use me for coaching if you have problems getting over your gaps. I'm certain that you found this show educational, eye-opening. Gosh, we learned a lot about the microbiome and the gut and the brain. And you'll obviously enjoyed it. Reach out to me for my services, products, programs, and offers. Reach out to Dr. Joanne for her services and purchase her book. Do we have some time for Dr. Joanne to come back? Oh, do you have anything to say?
I'm back if we have a couple minutes. No, what I do have to say is I really appreciate and respect what it is you do, helping people. You know, it's so important for people to find someone that can help to answer some of these questions. This is something that so many people struggle with because they go to their doctor, but their doctor doesn't give them the answers. They go to their doctor and the doctor gives them a medication or suggests that they have a surgery or sends them to someone else. What we know is that the body is a fantastic healing machine. And if you give it the raw materials it needs, it's going to heal itself. But you have to have a basic understanding of what raw materials does the body need and what are the key factors that are going to help your body heal. And those are the things that you help people with. And I appreciate so much what you do.
Well, I really appreciate it. I learned so much from you. And we are a holistic approach with a W because it's a whole body, mind, body, and soul. And we have approaches for different areas of health. It's just depending on what you need. And so you're not going to be popping from one doctor to another, getting one medication, another medication, and then having side effects, which is going to make you miserable. So I've been there, done that. I want to do it ever again.
No, and so many people have, and they don't have to do it anymore. And that's the beauty of this. But again, it comes with an understanding. And as I said, I alluded to it a couple of times, people sometimes struggle with the understanding of how their gut actually can impact their skin or every other system in their body. And this is not something that conventional medicine talks about. We don't we don't go to the doctor and the doctor doesn't say, "Oh, well, we need to start working on your gut first." And yet that's exactly what we do. We start working on the gut. We do it with diet, basic understanding of what good foods are and what bad foods are, and balancing the gut to make sure that those things that you're taking in are actually absorbed. This is another real key thing about the gut. A healthy gut is necessary in order to absorb anything that you put into your body. If it's a drug, if it's food, anything, it's not going to be absorbed properly if your gut is not working properly. And sometimes, we have a situation where unfortunately people are on medications, and those medications, unfortunately, are not absorbed like they should be. So they're not getting the benefit from the medication that they're looking for.
Exactly. Well, we have to close out the show. So thank you for being with me today. So everybody continue to enjoy my radio and TV show Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, where your holistic journey begins.